Hey folks, my name's Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Bootser. Black Hand of the Mexican Mafia. Prison gang politics.
Hey folks, my name's Rene Enriquez and you're watching Uncensored. Well, just as promised, we're coming with part 2 of the Benny Peters saga, Topo. We're covering Topo and his profile, but there's so much to include in this we had to do it in 2 parts. It's a massive story, and I don't think I could completely tell it because there's so many different angles to it, right? But like I said, no story can be told about Topo Peters without Paz Gutierrez. And again, that's his mom right there. That's Paz Gutierrez. She was well respected among the señoras. She was like Queen Bee, like literally Queen Bee of the señoras. And this is her pictured with some señoras in her house in East Los Angeles, California, on Soto Street. House still exists, obviously. She does not, nor does Benny. Paz in her later years became like the focal point of every celebration. Like the señoras would pick her up and take her out, partying, drinking, and she had a blast. She loved the attention. Paz was like the veteran señora, right? Right here, this is I believe her name was Star, and she was Tupi's wife. I don't know who she was, but this is Nilsa Arias. This she was married to Juan Carlos Arias, China boy from Artesia. I met her back in my day, and good peeps, man. Condolences to her. Condolences to Star. And this is Arcee. This is Smilon's wife, and this is Diana, Perico's wife. This is all the wives getting together, going and partying with Paz. They're having some type of celebration, and this is Paz depicted right here between the balloons. But she carried this status, right, in the organization, and everybody knew not to disrespect her, right? That was a death sentence, and it was real. Check out Paz there getting liquored up with Nilsa. And Nilsa looks like she got a little buzz going on right here, right? Look at her eyes; they're all tight, kind of like her husband's China boy eyes, right? But I remember I went to it was some kind of bar. It was a bar where they had dancing in La Mirada, and I met her there. I met her a few other times at Flo's house, and then I ran into that episode with Flo's family, and they didn't want to talk to me after that, which is I guess understandable. But no hard feelings for them. Condolences to her for the loss of her husband, the unneeded elimination of her husband. Um, it's just unfortunate that happened. But this is Paz in her heyday among the señoras, her being the lead señora, if there is such a position. This is her. Now, this is at a junta, right? This is a real Mexican mafia meeting, right? The carnales would bring their families and kids again, but this is a meeting at a park. The carnales used to call juntas. A junta, Junta, is a meeting, right? They would have Mexican mafia meetings at parks and bring their families and kids so it would look normal, like a normal picnic. And they would have barbecues with hot dogs and hamburgers and all that stuff, with the women and the kids running around while they're conducting mob business. But in this picture is depicted, I can't identify her. If anybody knows who she is, please advise. This is Paz Gutierrez. This is Diane, Perico's wife. This is Nilsa Arias. I think these are Nilsa's kids. This is Arcee, Smilon's wife. This is China Boy's wife. In fact, it was at some point that I had received a call from Benny Peters because I had a lot of interaction with him. Benny was my crimey, right? He was my crimey, and Benny's one of the founding members of the organization. I believe he's depicted in one of the pictures as being a founder of the organization. I'm not sure if that's accurate. Maybe he's second wave, but he's an early member, right? I remember receiving a call from him when I was on parole in 1988, and we were at a junta. We're at a meeting at Jesse Aragon's house. I don't have a picture of Jesse. I've looked for it everywhere. I know I have one somewhere, but I have such a massive collection that my stuff is so unorganized. I have these things called external drives, right, where I keep all my stuff. and it's just such a monumental task to find this stuff. In fact, I couldn't even put this story together. I've been creating it all week, and it wasn't until Mundo Mendoza sent me a picture of one of the individuals that I'm depicting in this presentation that I was able to complete it, because no story will be complete unless we told the whole story, right? And but Jesse Aragon was a slouch of a member, right? He lived with Jenny Borgueño, who was the daughter of Huerta Flores. Jesse was a maid carnal. So Benjamin Topo Peters, this individual depicted in the middle, Topo, arranged to call this house. So we were going to be there, Jesse Pelo Moreno, myself, and Sleepy. And we were there. I received a call from Benny Topo Peters, and at that point in time that he told me that somebody had to be eliminated and asked me if I would take care of it. And I told him, yeah, sure, I'll take care of it. Uh, that individual was David Gallegos. He was a carnal that had fallen into disfavor for showing cowardice. Uh, Chuco Castro, Pelon, and I think Perico, if I'm not mistaken, from Flats, went to go approach a drop off by the name of Huito Marquez because he was supposed to be taxing or he was in the neighborhood, and by all rights they should have eliminated him. Bottom line, they should have eliminated him right there at the door. Excuse me. But when they approached the door, Huito pulled out a gun. Chuco stood there and stared him down, and so did Perico. But Pelon, the guy who they asked me to eliminate, took off running and showed cowardice. That was it for him. That was it. I had met Pelon in Folsom State Prison years before. Yeah, like in 1985, 86, I met him. We were all in the general prison population. This is what he used to look like. He was a carnal, I believe he's from El Hoyo Maravilla. Uh, and he was a well-respected carnal. I mean, I met him in passing there in Folsom. I didn't get a good vibe from him. He was really kind of arrogant, kind of like all of us, right? All of us were arrogant at the time, but this guy's particularly arrogant and closed-mouthed. He was closed-mouthed, and I just didn't interact with him much. I met him. This is a carnal David Pelon, Loco, I think they called him too. And I shook his hand. I met him, and that was it. You know, he wasn't a guy that I ran with. Years later, I would get the contract on him. I never realized that was going to happen, but it did. This is a picture of David in life. This is an older picture, courtesy of Mundo Mendoza. This is pictures of David, maybe in Mexico or the Placita. I don't know where, but it's obviously a much happier time in his life. So I agreed to do this hit. Jesse Aragon was supposed to go with me, right? The guy Sleepy from Artesia, the guy where we had the junta at. But he begged off. He kept making excuses. I mean, the guy was really a bum. He was a bum living off the support of his wife. He didn't work. He didn't deal. He didn't do anything. His wife supplied his habit, and she would curse him out. In fact, in one instance, Weddle Shy and I were there, and we could hear them from the other room. Jenny was just cursing him out. F you. I don't care who you are. If you're carnal, I don't care if your carnal's here. Your carnal is here. You will be sick all day if you don't do what I say. Like horribly disrespectful stuff, and we heard it. In fact, Shy wanted to leave. Shy says we better leave. Let's get the f out of here before I want to eliminate this girl. And he was dead serious. He wanted to eliminate her, so we left. And this was the night after Sammy Bialba's sister's funeral. We had attended Sammy Bialba's sister's funeral. We spent the night. I think it was at Sleepy's house, and we heard all this stuff going on, and it was stomach turning. Like he was completely submissive, had no balls. She would boss him around. He wouldn't get his fix during the day if she was angry, and he would be sick all day. And that's how she had him, right? And we knew then that like this guy is worthless. This guy is nothing. This guy should have never been made a carnal. Funny story about Sleepy is that he would get tweaked out in Folsom in 4A, and they give you little bowls of or little boxes of cereal, right, cornflakes, with your breakfast. He would take the cornflakes and throw them in the front of his cell, all around the front of his cell, because he was paranoid. He wanted to hear if you stepped on the flakes and was creeping towards the cell, at night. Sloppy Coronel Mark told me the story and said, yeah, he would throw cornflakes all over the tier. And I said, why would he throw cornflakes on the tier? He says, because they crunch when you step on them. And he would hear if anybody was around the cell at night trying to get him. And he would go on these paranoid trips. So Sleepy would go on these paranoid trips when he was tweaked out. But he ended up being worthless, right? So David Pelon, I go to prison on a violation. I don't get to see him the first, right immediately after I accept the assignment of his elimination. But the next time I see him was in White Fence. And this is the end result of what happened to David. But that's on Spence Street in Los Angeles, California, right behind the Estrada courts. This is right in Vianney that this occurred. That wasn't my only event with Topo. I mean, I participated in a few crimes with him, but the most notorious was the attempted elimination of Mon Buenostro. This was in Los Angeles County Jail, and this is the only video clip I've seen of of Topo Peters ever. And I did global search. I searched for days to try to find video on him. This is the only video footage I found of him that's in existence. I'm going to run that now. This was taken. This is him entering court here. I'm with him. I'm with him in this instance. And this is immediately after we attempted to eliminate Mon Buenostro. In fact, you'll note this in that video, his right hand. During the process of eliminating Mon Buenostro, attempting to eliminate Mon Buenostro in the attorney room, Benny's on the floor with Mon Buenostro. And he administered one or two blows with his knife and it bent. And his hand got in the way and I stabbed him in the hand. That's the mark I put on him right there, right? I think it went all the way through. I'm not sure, but it was a mean little wound, and he was dripping too. But this is the absolute immediately after we participated in this attempted elimination of Mon Buenostro in the attorney room in Los Angeles County Jail. They took us to arraignment the next day. It was that quick, like that. I was shocked, right? They first took us up to 3234 and put us in an abandoned module. And Benny started talking like he always does. Started talking and was blabbing everything. Hey, do you think he's gone? It feels good. And I was just trying to go to bed. We were both drenched in blood. We had no soap. We took quasi bird baths with water just to get the stench of the blood off of us. And the next morning they woke us up at like 4 in the morning and it took us both to court. I was in the court somewhere. I walked in here as well. I remember this story appearing, and that was Benny, and it was in his heyday. Then he was still good. He was really good. He was in good standing. He was still well respected. Everybody knew he was scandalous little snake, and he would turn on you. But still, Benny had juice, right? Joe Morgan was still around. His key support was still around, and Joe Morgan loved him. Joe Morgan loved Topo because he was blindly loyal to Joe Morgan, just like Guate was. And Joe had his little favoritos, right? He has little favorites. Like Guate Grajeda was one of Joe Morgan's favorites. Benjamin Topo Peters was also one of his favorites. It wasn't until he married Sally Soto, right here. I'm not even sure if they were married, right? In one document, I seen that she was his fiance, and another, I saw that she was married to him. But Sally Soto was the sister of George Soto. George Soto's Pelon from Los Nietos. I couldn't find a picture of him, but this is his sister. George Soto had run into a jam in 3133. He was pro per, and he was tweaked out on meth. George Soto, I was with him in San Quentin. He was a friend of mine. In fact, he had hooked up with my homegirl at one point. I hooked him up with my homegirl Bibi from Chivas, and I knew him. I kept in touch with him when I was in prison. I knew him well. So when I saw him again in Los Angeles County Jail, I come in. I'm a full blown carnal. Next time I see him, I'm a full blown carnal. And there's all kinds of rumors swirling about him, that he's a rat, that he's no good, that he locked up. So what happened was this, right? Sally Soto's brother, George Soto, Pelon from Los Nietos, got tweaked out on meth, started a fire in front of his cell, and took out knives he was holding for the camaradas and carnales, and started stabbing the desk, bah, 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 until the cops came and apprehended the knives. Henry Indio Carlos jumped all over this because he knew uh, that uh, George had fixed up Topo with Sally in an attempt to clean his own act up. He sent his sister to visit Topo, and Topo started a romantic relationship with her. They never once consummated the relationship. This was an unconsummated marriage. In fact, I asked Benjamin, because they would get contact visits at MDC after they got indicted, and that'll come in a minute, if he had ever kissed her or consummated the relationship, right? Because that would have been my main goal. You know? I know it's kind of doggish, but that would have been goal one, not drugs, not product. It would have been consummation, right? I mean, let's face it, you get married. I mean, it's because you're attracted to somebody, right? But Benny said he never even tried to kiss her, not once. And but George sends his sister as a sacrificial goat. Hey, go see Benny. Go hook up with him. I'll get a pass, and I'll get out of this jam. And what does Benny do? This is where his problems start. He gives the guy a pass. Benny Peters is in the county jail. Topo's in the county jail. Hooks up with this girl whose brother is a PC and now considered a rat, and gives him a pass. Indio is livid. Indio Henry Carlos is livid. Like, how are you going to give a rat a pass? You cannot support this. Because Indio's gangster. He's gangster. He's old school. Let's face it. He was right. He was right. And he held on to it, right? He held on to it. Uh, and started pushing this issue in the later years. Was the undoing. This is the literal undoing of Topo Peters right here. This woman was the undoing of Topo Peters. And you know what? He never even got the kitty. He never even got the kitty, and he sacrificed his whole life for her. That's the reality of this. The reality of this is that. In fact, I remember one time being in Pelican Bay State Prison, and I'm in a visit. Topo is adjacent to me, like right next to me, and he's drunk. And he's calling her all kinds of B's and W's and FU and you're stupid. And the whole visiting room has just got quiet. We can't even engage in our visit because we could hear him screaming at the top of his lungs at her about how worthless and stupid she is. And I put the phone down and I told him, hey, bro, like everybody's listening to your visit and they hear how you're talking to your wife. I said, why don't you be cool? You know, it's not a good look, right? And I did it as gently as I could. And he says, yeah, F this W, this stupid B. And it just starts going off, right? And the cops are even come by and they're telling him, hey, Mr. Peters, please calm down. And we have no choice but to terminate your visit. And he continues ranting, right? And it's an embarrassment. It's a bad look. But this is how he treated women. It was horrible. It was horrible. He even talked to his mom that way. I heard him talking to his mom that way in the visit because she comes to visit frequently as well. But he didn't call her a W or anything. But he called her stupid and F this and like talk to her like a gangster, right? That's the way he treated women. But she accepted it. She left her husband for Benny and all for her brother George to get him out of a jam. I remember during the peace talks, we were walking in 2000 after the riot in Pelican Bay, and I saw him. By then, everybody in Pelican Bay had turned on him. He was isolated. I didn't even stop by his cell. I just told him, I stopped by briefly. I told him, there's nothing I could do for you, bro. That's just the way it is. And I walked away, and I felt terrible because I knew George, you know. But I knew I didn't want to get involved in that. I didn't want to get involved with it, you know. By the time he was in the county jail, he got a pass. When he got to the Bay, he was done. Indio, Tablas, Cuate, Angel, all the mejores, the verdaderos, los mejores, that little clique they started, that little secret clique they tried to get going, they ran with this, right? And that started the deep facility, C facility war. This woman was the fuel for that conflict. A lot of people don't know that she was the fuel for this conflict. That we're supporting rats, and because I was loyal to Benny, I was pegged with that too. Anybody who supported Benny was pegged with that. They just painted us with the same brushstroke, right? You know, boom, you support rats. This guy's a rat, and they had the police report, they had the paperwork. Indio had it and held on to it and spread it around. Indio was pretty effective at campaigning, right? But he was campaigning in what he believed in, and it was right. You know, you got to give the guy credit. He did it right. You know, he destroyed Benny. You know, single-handedly. And we're going to run something here, and I want you guys to hear that, you know, that this campaign took off. You know, it took off, and it was freaking effective. And it was all because of this woman. This was his undoing. Um, Benny was going to fall by the wayside. That's just a harsh reality of the organization. In fact, we discussed it soon thereafter. Benny was indicted in 1995 in U.S. versus Alex Aguirre et al. You can see his name mentioned. This is the first day of trial. They're going through voir dire. A jury's been impaneled. And it was during this process that a lot of the wiretaps, a lot of the visiting, a lot of the stuff that Benny was doing, lying, making carnales without voting. In fact, he was sending out wire to Chuy and a bunch of other brothers. Said, "Yeah, Mono's a carnal. Yeah, this guy's a carnal," and they weren't carnales. He'd tell them that we voted on it, and we didn't even vote on it. That's why I say these guys weren't members, right? Because they really weren't members. It never went through Pelican Bay, and once the Pelican Bay heard about it, it's like absolutely not. Everybody was already adamantly opposed to Topo, and when they found out Topo had a part of it, they opposed it, right? And quite frankly, there were occasions when I went out to the visiting room and Benny Peters had told people, "Yeah, this guy's got to go." All the cardenales in my block had voted on it and they agreed upon it. And I go out there the next week and they say, "Hey, Rene, did you vote on this?" And I tell them, "What are you talking about?" So, yeah, Topo was out here last week and said, "Oh, you guys agreed to this." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. Wait. It was then that I started separating. I saw that that blind loyalty was going to get me in a wreck. I didn't even know I was already in a wreck. I started figuring it out later. But Benny had kind of pulled us down with him, you know, and he was sinking. He was in a sinking ship, and he wanted us on that ship with him. So he included us in all this crap. And it wasn't until me and Jocko and Daryl and a few other carnales realized that Benny was like, he's on the way out. And it's quite possible that we're going to have to do it. So me and Jocko and Bruiser had a discussion one day in front of the house, and and we're talking about, you know, it's got to be us, it's got to be us, you know. But this is getting bad, you know, getting really bad. Where Benny's out there lying, and we checked him, and I would hear Albert Dolento in there checking him. "You cannot freaking say that. You cannot effing say this. You cannot tell them we did." Just like checking him. It was like Bruiser, the younger brother, the newer brother, checking this old veteran mobster who was his cellie, and just like dressing him down. And his older years too, I remember that in the pods, Benny wouldn't wash his clothes. He was a dirty little old man. He would take his dirty underwear and his socks and just go throw them in the front when he'd go take a shower. He'd throw them right there in the front of the pod, and they'd sit right there until a tecolote, Night Owl, would go. He was the cheer trainer, so he would go out and sweep them up and throw them away. But his dirty underwear, his dirty socks, he would wear them till they were dirty and then throw them away. Because we had a connect, they would always send us good laundry in our laundry bags in the shoe. So he would just wait for new stuff, and it just became a dirty little old man. And all he lived for was getting high, right, and politicking. Because this is after Joe's death, right? He had he was like a senior member there, but I think he was believing his own press. That the cops started thinking he was the Godfather, so he started believing that he was the Godfather, and it became his undoing. Like I said, Benny was the central point in the C&D facility war, and it was all brought about by Sally Soto and her brother, and the dirty stuff that Benny was doing. Like a lot of the stuff I saw in the transcripts when we went down in 1995, where carnales were talking about what Benny said and what he approved them to do, and the carnales he was making and the lies he was telling. Everybody read that. Everybody saw that, and it wasn't a good look for Benny. It was his undoing, right? But the focal point, the catalyst of it all, was Sally Soto. And a lot of people don't know that. In fact, here's one conversation between Tati and Indio Carlos. This is Henry Carlos. This is Tati. Tati was eliminated in ADX in Florence, Colorado. I have that video. I have that video, and I will be running it once I figure out how I can bring it to you guys without getting uh, flagged by YouTube, right? Maybe I can put it up somewhere else. But I do have the video. We have exclusive footage on his elimination. It was pretty brutal. Uh, but this is Henry Carlos speaking with Tati on a wiretap. I want you to hear this conversation and know that when they speak about patitas, they're talking about T.O.P.O., Topo, Benjamin Peters. Here we go. Let's jack this volume up. And we're ready to go.
Okay, but watch out, bro. I don't want you to study, pero ¿qué está pasando allá? Ahí arriba, ya. Nada, puro pinche mamadora, ¿no? Check it out, bro. Okay, see, I want somebody to tell me that's up there y que sabe lo que está pasando. Okay, look at. Remember all that happened when they were all out there? Yeah. They were trying to F everybody up there? Yeah. Okay. Now that happened because of that guy, right? Yeah, Patita. No, the other one. But the one, Chuk. Oh, yeah, okay.
So Chuk is Ernie Castro, right? And Tati just said patitas. That's Topo, right? So they're saying all the stuff on the streets is because of Chuco. But listen to this.
He was driving that, right? Yeah. Now he was driving under the guidance of patitas. Yeah. Okay, now patita did a lot of wrong, Holmes. Yeah, I read it. Okay. So did I, Holmes. Everybody read it. Okay, but here's the problem. Now you got a group of homies that are saying, well, that's wrong on principle, that's wrong, and that's it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Now all that's good and everything, but who's gonna do the work? Yeah. Because you can't do that no more. Yeah. You know how it is.
Who's gonna do the work? Because you can't get to them anymore. You know how it is. The work is the work. We all know what that means. And you can't get to him anymore. We're in Pelican Bay. We're isolated, right? He's among us. And we're insulating him. We're protecting Benjamin Topo Peters. And they stopped cell moves. And it actually separated all members from cellies. You couldn't get a cellie anymore as a carnan because this was going on. And the cops knew about it. They're listening to this stuff. They know who's in the hat and who's not in the hat. Sacramento issued a memorandum saying no more cellies for Mexican Mafia members or associates. Nobody could get to anybody. It was a war of words. The war of words between C and D facility, and these are the words they were speaking.
And then if a Vato kind of feels like, hey, you know what, man, there might be something there, I'm not going to kick you with him. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? I hear you. So what I'm telling everybody right here is, look, all that sounds good and everything, what I feed him in. The homie lost a lot of respect. That's the way I'm saying it. Yeah. Patitas, right? Yeah. So, for right now, he just lost a lot of respect, and whenever happens, happens later on in the days, right? Okay. But who's telling when it's going to happen? Hey, porque watch out. Yeah. Because nosotros queremos hacer algo acá afuera para los canales adentro.
So that's it. His fate is sealed. When they get a chance, they're going to eliminate Benny. That's it. That's all. The story's over with Benny. He is in the hat. I'm in the hat. A few carnales are in the hat behind the C&D facility war, right? And it was all behind Benny, right? All behind Benny. I'm not blaming him for my ills. You know, I made a lot of blunders politically, and it wasn't because of the elimination of Cynthia Galvadon. You guys got that wrong there. Because I've seen a couple comments where they said that, oh, that's why he got put in the hat. No. It wasn't because of my criminal history. None of that stuff, right? It was politics, right? It was politics. I aligned myself with the wrong people. And all my support had left to the feds. They all got indicted. All the brothers who were my brothers were gone. Benny wasn't really my brother. I supported him blindly with that stupid blind loyalty, and that was my undoing. So Benny soon thereafter contracted or developed liver cancer, right? And they put him in the infirmary. In fact, he was in okay shape here. He was all, this is him all loaded on the morphine they were giving him, right? And he was housed there. They were sending him back to the SHU. But what a lot of people don't know is that he requested to remain housed in the infirmary because he was afraid for his life. I provided this paperwork to Chris Blatchford. I had the paperwork itself. I believe that may still be in existence, but Chris Blatchford included it in the Black Hand. Uh, this isn't pulled out of thin air. People ask for paperwork. It's there. Believe me, it's there. Benny was afraid for his life and realized he was going to be eliminated and didn't want to leave the infirmary. He told officials that he was weak and that they would take advantage of that and eliminate him. So they kept him in the infirmary. He was self-PC'd there. And a lot of people don't know that that's how he ended his life in his quasi self-protective custody status. This is Benny shortly before his death. He had lost so much weight. They have that pump in him where they're doing chemotherapy. Nothing's helping. It advanced so far that there was nothing they could do for Benny. And ultimately, this is Benny on his death. February 18th, 2001, he expired from terminal liver cancer. He went to gross metastases. It was everywhere in his body. In fact, Shirley MacDonald and Albert Juarez, good friends of the organization, good friends, just good people, right? They were never caught up criminally. Albert Juarez was in Pelican Bay Shoe with Joe Morgan and became a friend of Joe, and thereby became a friend of a lot of us. All I can say about those people, they're good people. I heard that Shirley MacDonald passed away from cancer herself. My condolences to Albert Juarez. She was always good to me, and actually took my son in. I got him a scholarship to UCLA. But they are the ones that arranged the funeral of Benny Peters and got him this ugly ass burgundy suit. I don't know what they were thinking, but look at that ugly ass suit. Burgundy to beat all colors, right? And then it's ill-fitting, but look at the sleeves, look at the fit of the jacket. I get it. It's his funeral. They got what they could, and Benny had nobody to do this for him. But thankfully, Albert and Shirley arranged for his funeral. He was buried in West Covina, and unfortunately, not many people attended. For being the giant that he was, the little general that he was, nobody showed at the end of the day. Nobody visits his gravesite. I don't even know if he has a headstone, but it was a very small procession. Very few people attended the service, and he died. And left this earth, and that was his legacy. He was hated by the organization. He was sought after, and they were going to eliminate him. Believe me, that Benny was going to be eliminated at some point, as would have I. That I was not exempt from those politics, so it's no different. At the end of the day, when I leave this earth, somebody will do a piece on me and have the very same things to say about me. So. I'm not judging Benny by any stretch of the imagination. He was my friend, but he was a friend that I knew that was a friend to only a certain extent. And in this life, unfortunately, you have to eliminate friends sometimes. And Benny, when all is said and done, would have probably been eliminated by us had he stuck around. So, that concludes our story on Benjamin Topo Peters. I hope you enjoyed it, folks. I tried to bring you as much information as possible on him. And I wanted it to be different, right? Told from a personal perspective and giving you all looks at how it went down and how people felt about him. With that said, stay tuned for this weekend's episodes as well. Hope you enjoyed this two-part series on Benjamin Topo Peters. With that said, peace out. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Boots.